Assalamu alaikum. Joining me is Richard Azmet Awed, an interpreter for the Al-Rashid Mosque at Fort Edmonton Park in Edmonton, Alberta. Richard, tell us about how the Al-Rashid Mosque, the first mosque in Canada, arrived at the Fort Edmonton Park.
By 1980 in Edmonton, the Muslim population was 16,000, and the mosque became too small for this population. We had people coming from all over the Muslim world rather than just the Arab countries up to that time. So in 1979, 1980 time period, the Muslims of Edmonton said that they have to build a new center in order to look after the Muslim population at that time. So the idea of building the Canadian Islamic Center came into being, and they had to collect anywhere from $1 to $3 million to build that center. In the meantime, the Al-Rashid Mosque, the first mosque built in Canada, would sit idle from 1980 to 1988. During that time period, the mosque was standing idle because the Muslim community didn't have any money to move it, because all of the money was being put into the building of the Canadian Islamic Center. So from 1980 to 1988, the Muslims stood by and watched the first mosque stand by itself on 111th Avenue and 102nd Street. At that time, there is a hospital in the area called the Royal Alexandra Hospital, and in that time period, the hospital said that they would like to expand. And the land which the mosque stood on was traded for land where the new Canadian Islamic Center was being built. In addition, the Muslims had to pay extra money because there's a lot more land there. But the Muslims had to do something, otherwise the mosque was, if it couldn't be moved, the mosque was going to have to be demolished. So 1988 comes along, and a group of women known as the Canadian Council of Muslim Women in Edmonton said that 1988 is the 50th anniversary of the mosque. What can we do to save the mosque from being demolished? The Muslim women said, we will take it on as a fundraising project in order to save it and get it moved. And that is exactly what the Canadian Council of Muslim Women did. They went ahead and they did their fundraising campaign, and they raised approximately $200,000 in order to help move the mosque and to get it fixed up so it could be operational again. And with that money, they went to City Council. They said to City Council, we have money to move the mosque. Will you help us find a place for it? City Council debated on and off for a length of time, and eventually they said that the mosque would be moved to Fort Edmonton Park. So the mosque was moved to Fort Edmonton Park in 1989. And it stands here in the park today in great splendor and as part of history for the Edmonton and Canadian and world population. It is visited by many people today from all over the world, and it is the first mosque that was built in Canada, and it was built by the Muslim pioneers who came from the present-day countries of Lebanon and Syria in order to preserve their culture and religion.
Richard, thank you very much for documenting that era of the Muslim history. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.